Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and talk about reflexive verbs. They can be used in any tense, and essentially you use a reflexive verb in Spanish when the action that's being, well, basically when the subject and the object are the same person. So for example, here we have Isabel, and in both of these scenarios, she's combing. Here, she's combing her sister's hair. So Isabel is the subject. She's the one doing the combing, but she's not the one who's being combed. It's her sister. So this one is not reflexive because the subject is Isabel and the object, the one who is not doing the action, not doing the combing, but is receiving the benefit of the action is a different person. It's her sister. Over here, however, Isabel is doing the combing, so she's the subject, but she's also the one who's being combed. So she, in addition to being the subject, she is also the object. And so whenever you do something to yourself, you make the verb whenever you do something to yourself, the verb takes a reflexive pronoun, okay? And so in Spanish, many verbs that describe daily habits and personal care require a reflexive pronoun because these are often things we do to ourselves. Let's see, if the same person performs and receives the action, which is what I was talking about, if the subject, the person who's doing the combing, is the same as the person whose hair is being combed, it requires a reflexive pronoun. These are your reflexive pronouns right here, and they go in front of conjugated verbs or attached to and attached to infinitives. There's some other places they can go as well, but I think up until this point, that's the only grammar that you know where you would use. So I'm not going to explain to you the other place. Well, I can go ahead and tell you, but we're not going to focus on it. Reflexive pronouns can go attached to affirmative commands, and they can go attached to present participles. But we're not at that place yet where we're talking about commands or present participles, so you don't need to worry about it. You just need to worry about that they go in front of conjugated verbs, and they go attached to infinitives. So when you're introduced to these verbs, and I'm going to pull this up from a different book, actually. Actually, I'll just leave it like this. I think it's big enough. When you're introduced to these verbs, you're often going to see them given to you with the reflexive pronoun attached. And you can see that these are a lot of them, and they often deal with things that you do to get ready in the morning to get up and start your day, or things that you do before you go to bed, like putting yourself to bed, shaving, giving yourself a bath, giving yourself a shower, combing your hair, getting yourself dressed, sitting yourself down, putting on your makeup, falling asleep. Falling asleep, it's because, I don't know, I don't know if it's because you do it to yourself, but dormir, when it's not reflexive, is to sleep. So you'd use just dormir without the reflexive pronoun to talk about for how many hours you sleep. I sleep 8 hours a day, duermo 8 horas cada día, but you use the reflexive pronoun when you want to make it fall asleep. So if I say me duermo or me dormí a las 11 anoche, that means I fell asleep at 11 last night. To get yourself up, or to wake yourself up, to get yourself up, to dry yourself off, to take off your clothes, to wash this case your face, but it could be to wash your hair, wash your hands, to brush your teeth. So you can see that most verbs that are reflexive tend to deal with your morning and evening routine, because these aside, now they don't always have to be, because for example, dressing, I think most of my kids are putting on their own clothes at this point, but like a year or two ago, I had my youngest son is 4, so when he was 2, I was putting on his clothes. I still comb all their hair, so when I'm doing the combing, but I'm combing my children's hair, then it's not reflexive. Or brushing teeth, I still go behind my 4-year-old, so sometimes I brush his teeth for him, and so that wouldn't be reflexive. And putting people to bed, that's a toss-up because they actually have to get themselves in bed, but I'm tucking some of them in, especially the little one, and so it might not be reflexive there. Okay. Okay, so we already mentioned that. Waking up, it says, so these verbs can also be used non-reflexively Me despierto a las 7 todos los días. So I get myself up, and that's the truth. Me despierto a las 5 or 5:15 todos los días. But my husband, mi esposo, despierta a mis hijos a las 6:30. So if my husband is waking up our children, then it's not reflexive. It's only reflexive when you're doing it to yourself, which I'm assuming most of you guys are because of your age. Hopefully you're getting yourselves up. Okay? So if you want to say that you shower yourself or you comb your own hair or you dress yourself, you're going to put a me with your verb. You're going to put a te if I want to say do you do something. You're going to put a say if he or she does something. If we do something to ourselves, you're going to use a nos. If y'all do something to yourselves, you're going to use an os or a say, depending on what country you're in. And if they do something to themselves, you're going to use a say. Okay? So let's see. Reflexive pronouns are usually placed immediately before the conjugated verb, but with constructions using the infinitive or the gerund. So they do talk about that, the ando, yendo. However, I don't think we have learned gerunds yet. There are two options. The pronouns may still be placed in front of the conjugated verb, or they may be attached to the infinitive. So often when there's an infinitive situation, there's also going to be a conjugated verb. So here I have to put myself to bed. I can put my pronoun in front of the conjugative verb, the tengo, or I can put it attached to the infinitive. And that's what this is going through and showing you. And then if you have a gerund, this is present progressive, saying that you're doing it right now. Me estoy duchando. I'm showering myself right now. Then in order to make the present progressive, the ing form in Spanish, you have to have a star and the present participle. So because a star is a conjugated verb, the me could go in front or it could go attached to the participle. But then you have to add in a written accent mark when you do that, because wherever the accent fell in the original word, which this ends in O, so it should be the second to last syllable. When we add more syllables to the end, we want to keep the stress where it was before we added those extra words. So you have to write in a written accent mark where it fell without the written words. Okay, so let's do some practice. Oh, one other thing I wanted to mention, I think you can see it here. Okay, so when you're given these verbs, like acostar is the one that you're using. So when you first see it in the back of your book or within the chapter, you're going to see it like this. If you're choosing not to conjugate, just because you leave the verb in the infinitive, these are not the same. They're not the same. So just because you're not changing your infinitive doesn't mean that you get to leave this alone. So even if this is an infinitive, you're still going to want to change this, your reflexive pronoun, to match the subject of your sentence. So your verb would stay the same, but you won't always have say, because this is yo tengo. Notice how it changes throughout from me, te, say, nos, os. So this is matching up with this. Okay, so just remember that even though it's attached, they are not the same part of speech. They're just written, it's just written attached to it, but it's still a separate part of speech. So the rules that apply to the reflexive pronoun are not the same as those that apply to the verb. Okay, and you can see it here again. Even though it's attached, it's not going to say, it's going to match this word right here. Okay, so let's do a little bit of practice here. Lisa and Rodrigo, sorry, a little bit of laryngitis here. Lisa y Rodrigo are talking about their habits during the school semester. Complete their conversation with the correct present tense forms of the reflexive verbs provided. So Lisa says, y durante el semestre, ¿a qué hora tú acostar normalmente? So we have the verb acostar and we have the subject to. So we're going to, basically what you might want to do is to just take your little say out of the equation, for a moment, and just deal with the verb, because you should know how to do your verb. So we're going to put our se over here and we're going to think about it in a minute. Okay, so let's deal with acostar. Acostar happens to be an O-T-U-E stem changing verb. So that means this. So the rule, even though these are reflexive, the rules that you've learned don't go away. So it's an O to UE. That means you're going to change that O to a UE for all subjects except for nosotros and vosotros. We don't have a nosotros or vosotros situation going on right here. So we are going to use, actually I'm going to get a darker red. Okay, so we are going to use quest. And then we want to add the AR ending that goes with to, which would be an AS. Okay? But she's saying to Rodrigo, at what time do you put yourself to bed? And so then we need the reflexive pronoun that matches Rodrigo. When we're talking to him, it would be te. And I'm going to pull those over. Let me just make sure I'm good on time. Okay, so we're going to do the same thing down here. Depende, pero nunca acostarse más tarde de medianoche. So again, it's for yo, so my acostar has that O-T-U-E. Acuest, for yo, it would be an O, and then the reflexive pronoun that would match acuesto is me. And I'm putting it in front because I don't have an infinitive in this sentence anymore. It's been conjugated. Yo levantarse muy temprano a las 7 de la mañana. So here again, I'm going to levantar is normal, so I'm just going to keep levant. And then since it's yo, I'm going to add an O, and then I need to put the reflexive pronoun that matches that O, which would be me. Me levanto muy temprano a las 7:30. So then Lisa says, a las 7, mi compañera de cuarto también. So now we're talking about compañera de cuarto, which is the same thing as ella. So we have levant. For ella, it would be an A. And then the reflexive pronoun for ella would be se. So mi compañera de cuarto también se levanta a las 6 o 7, pero yo no, yo muy tarde. ¿Por qué? ¿No tienes clase? Sí, pero por la noche yo, and then we've got divertir. Divertir is an E to I, stem changing verb, and we have to make that change because our subject is yo. It only can't be made if we have nosotros or vosotros. So this is our diver. Okay, so then it starts an E to I, so divier. And then we add the O, divierto. And then because it's yo, we're going to add the me. Salgo con mis amigos, vamos a la discoteca. A mí no me gusta salir, prefiero estar en el dormitorio, veo la tele, hablo por teléfono, yo. So we have relajar. Relaja. Okay, then we would make it an O for yo, and it's regular, and I just add the me in front. Me relajo y después a dormir. Okay, I only have a few more minutes. So just to show you an example where you wouldn't change, where you could leave it attached is here. Like, voy a blancar el pelo con mi champú favorito. We're probably going to use lavarse. Okay, so I write in lab. There's lavar. I'm going to leave it lavar because this is I'm going to wash. But since it's I, even though I need to attach my pronoun, I'm going to change my pronoun to me because my pronoun has to match. My pronoun has to match that boy. Okay. Let's see if there's another one here. Marta y yo tenemos que blank muy temprano mañana porque tenemos que estar en el trabajo a las 6 de la mañana. Probably get up. So we'll do levantarse. And you wouldn't conjugate, you would leave it, levantar. But then because it's Marta and yo, we have to get ourselves up. I need my reflexive pronoun to be nos. I can't leave it as se. Okay, so just make sure that when you are using the infinitives and you do the attaching, that you still take care of your reflexive pronoun and make it match who the subject is.